Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be teaching you the 5 foundational first steps to take and think through so you can start your influencer journey on the right path, knowing your audience, your purpose, and also how to maximize your time and efforts on Instagram from the very beginning. So if you're interested in learning how to become an influencer in 2019, keep watching. Alright guys, so before we jump into it all, I do want to address one little rumor I've been hearing about this industry, and that is that it's oversaturated. Please don't give in to this lie. Understand that there's enough space for anyone who has something meaningful to share, desires to create impact, deliver value, but most importantly is willing to put in the work. So with that being said, let's get started. Step number 1, identify which influencer path is going to work the best for you in the very beginning. What I mean by that is, are you going to go full force? Are you just wanting to test the waters without committing too much? It all comes down to title, the amount of work you'll be putting in on a weekly basis, and then also whether you mind owning your digital presence versus renting it. So first, let's talk title. So it's a matter of blogger and influencer versus just influencer. There's no right or wrong when you're starting. So both can be and have been proven to be as equally successful. So if you're just wanting to test the waters and see where it takes you, then a social media influencer is where you're gonna wanna start. As a social media influencer, your main focus is to create content solely for your Instagram and any other platforms that you post on at that time. It's the least expensive and the least commitment needed for this path. The great thing about choosing the path of the social media influencer in the beginning is if when you're ready, and if blogging is something you want to incorporate later on, which I highly recommend, but that's a video for a whole nother day, then that's something that you can always transition to. You can always transition into being a blogger / social media influencer. Okay, so now let's talk about pursuing the blogger / social media influencer path, which is the route I took only because when I started, the term influencer didn't quite exist yet. And back then, all of the style and fashion influencers that I followed had a fashion blog and they would push all their readers to their blog. So the main difference between these two different paths is whether you're going to want to start a blog right off the bat. And also it's the way you push your content. So typically as a social media influencer, you're only creating content for Instagram. As a blogger, your main platform is your blog. So you create, depending on how many you want to create a week, it all depends on how much you have to share. First, you want to create your blog. Then you will shoot your photos or whatever you want to use to promote that blog. And then you use social media to push the blog to get your readers back to your blog to read your blog. So that is the main difference, and that's what I referred to when I mentioned whether you mind renting your digital presence versus owning it. So as a social media influencer, if all you have is an Instagram account, you really don't own your social media presence. As a blogger, you own your blog. If you collect emails, you own your emails. And if, God forbid, anything was to happen to Instagram, and you have a blog, you're able to still contact your readers. Your readers know where to find you in case something like that ever happens. So that is the main difference between a social media influencer and a blogger / social media influencer. Now that you know the difference between the two, I do want you to understand that there is no right or wrong path to start on. For the purpose of this video, I did want to help you find the path that is going to be the best for you without overcomplicating things. You can always incorporate a new platform or start a blog. It's all about starting and then finding your rhythm so that you can create consistency. Number 2 is taking time to think about your purpose and your audience, aka finding your niche. This is one of the most foundational steps to take in order to help separate yourself from everyone else. I'm sure by now you've heard about the importance of finding your niche, most importantly, a more segmented niche. The best way to come up with this is by asking yourself a couple questions. Question number one is, what is the purpose of my account? Is it to teach, inspire, lead, help, provide some sort of escape? And how are you going to fulfill this purpose? So for example, are you an expertise in a field and do you feel like others would benefit if you would teach this? Do you have impeccable taste and feel like you could help others dress better? Have you mastered how to achieve and maintain a specific lifestyle? Do you create beautiful art and want to showcase your work? Are you great at motivating and leading others? Finding your purpose will help you attract your ideal audience, and not only that, it'll help you identify how you can best serve and provide value to this audience. Number two is, who is my account for? This is part two to identifying your niche. This is where you're going to want to sit down and get as detailed as possible. Is your ideal follower a male or a female? Are they married? Are they single? Do they have children? How much do they make? What do they drive? Where do they shop? Where do they vacation? You're going to want to get as detailed as possible. This will also help you identify the best ways that you can connect with your ideal follower. Number three, what do I stand for and believe in? I'm sure you guys have all heard of the quote, if I don't stand for something, I'll fall for anything. So don't be afraid to use your platform as a means of expressing yourself in your beliefs and your values. Yes, you will lose some followers, but you will make raving fans out of the people who share the same values as you do. So don't be afraid, again, to use your platform for good and to speak out. So take some time to write down your beliefs and your values, and also think about how you can incorporate them on a day-to-day basis or when it really counts. So let's say there's something that's happened in the world and you just really feel passionate about it. Don't be afraid to speak out on it. So that is question number three. Moving on to question number four. Number four is, how will others benefit from my content? You guys, this is key. This is something that you should be asking yourself on the daily. How can I deliver value to my audience? This is ultimately what will keep your audience sticking around long-term and engaged with your content. So are you going to be your audience's go-to person for beauty reviews, DIYs, advice, tips and tricks, little mini lessons on your area of expertise, etc.? You need to think about, how can I help an everyday person like myself? And it can be as easy as sharing something that you learned from someone else, or sharing a tactic you use on a daily basis. So this is key. How can you provide value on a daily basis? Foundational step number three, and that is of course to start and focus on perfecting what works for you. So there's two important parts to this section. Number one is of course to start. Don't let anyone's opinions or your fears get in the way of pursuing this dream of yours. So start. Create an Instagram account, start posting, create consistency, just create an online presence. Once you've done that, focus on perfecting what works for you in this point in time, not what works for anyone else, but solely what works for you. If you want this bad enough, you will find a way. What I mean by that is, if all you have right now is an iPhone and your husband or coworker, mother, sibling to take your photo, make that shit work. You by no means need to go out and buy a fancy camera, hire a photographer. No. You do realize, well, yes, there's tons of influencers right now who are extremely successful who only take their photos on an iPhone. It's all about the creativity behind it, the way it's shot, the way it's edited, the mood you capture, the angles, your perspective. So if you have a unique perspective, just make whatever you have work for that time being. You can always progress. So I just want you guys again to reiterate, you can use your iPhone, work on perfecting the lighting, knowing when to take photos, download some apps. There's a lot of free apps, and that'll be another video for another day in regards to editing, or you could buy a preset and still use it on a mobile photo. So again, work on perfecting what works for you and do not worry about what anyone else is doing. If you're loving this so far and you're new to my channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button and also turn on your notifications. So that being said, let's move on to foundational step number 4, which is to get into the mindset of being a business owner now. I know what you guys are thinking. Oh, but Jen, this is just a hobby. Stop right there. Chances are you're starting this to, number 1, share your passion, number 2, because you're a boss, and number 3, to eventually make some money. Am I right? Okay, perfect. So the sooner you start treating your brand like a business, the better off you'll be. And if you follow my tips above and start working towards cultivating an engaged community, it won't be long until brands are approaching you or you're pitching them. So from the very beginning, from day one, register your business with the IRS and with the state. Start keeping track of your expenses and your income, especially anything that you receive in trade. That is considered income. The value of what you receive is considered income. And most importantly, present yourself in the most professional manner in your emails and your DMs when you're communicating with other brands. On to step number 5, the 5th fundamental step in becoming an influencer in 2019. So guys, number 5 is be strategic with your efforts and time. So time is precious, waste it wisely. With that being said, every minute spent should be purposeful and every effort should count. These are my top do's and don'ts while on Instagram. Number 1 don't is don't mindlessly scroll through your timeline. Do, however, every time you open your app, interact and engage with everyone you follow, especially if they're in a similar niche as you or semi-similar niche as you. Reason being is influencers and content creators pay attention to those who interact with them the most. So if you guys are following each other and it comes time for you to post, they will more than likely repay the favor and interact with your content as well. Now, if you're not following each other or they're not following you, still comment on their post because it's free exposure for you. I can't tell you how many influencers I have found and followed because either their name caught my attention or their comment did. Trust me, it works. Second don't is don't forget about geotagging, using hashtags, and tagging brands. This is so crucial, guys. Even if you're not being paid, and especially if you're just starting out, make sure that you utilize these free tools for free exposure. Following that up, do geotag your photos and stories. This allows your followers to know where you're from, as well as it allows local businesses to find local influencers to possibly collaborate with. Do use hashtags strategically as well in your stories and in your posts. So when you're posting an in-feed post, make sure you have at least 3 groups of different hashtags that you can alternate with to help you gain more exposure. In your stories, however, make sure to utilize 1 to 3 hashtags that apply to whatever you're sharing, whether it's an OTD, whether it's a recipe, whether it's a DIY, whatever it may be. Utilize hashtags, especially if you're a local blogger. Local hashtags will help you gain local exposure. Most importantly, do tag brands. This is a great way to not only allow your followers to know what you're using or what's being talked about in the story or the post, but it also opens up the possibility for a collaboration. And also in the future, you can also reference these tags as well to show the brand that you've been mentioning them in the past. Inside scoop, guys, I just got back from a workshop where there was a panel of ladies who represent brands who already work with influencers, and they mentioned how brands are looking for influencers who are already organically mentioning them to their fans and their following. So make sure to tag and at all brands at any time in an in-feed post and in your stories for potential collaborations. Third don't is don't ignore your comments or DMs. Do, however, work towards building a community by answering all your questions and all in your comments and all your direct messages. This is so important. Why else are you on here if not to build a community? Another thing to consider is Instagram's algorithm also takes into account how quickly you interact with people who interact with you. So make sure to engage. Pro tip here, if you are getting overwhelmed with DMs but you're noticing the same questions, then go ahead and use the questions feature in stories and create a Q&A highlight where everyone can reference if they ever have a question. Also, you can also encourage your followers to jump on live with you, and you can have a Q&A live, which is a great way to connect with people and just have that real life connection. So again, guys, engage with everyone who engages with you. It is so important and it'll go a long way. All right, guys, there you have it. If you guys loved my 5 foundational steps on how to become an influencer, make sure to comment below and let me know which one was your favorite one, which one resonated with you the most. Also, if you want to learn more on how to become an influencer, as well as keep up with my love affair with fashion, make sure to subscribe and to hit that notification bell for future videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon.